For decades of my life, I had this story of I don't know what I'm passionate about. And because I had that story, the guidance that my parents gave was, okay, just keep getting educated, keep going through school to keep the doors open. So that's what I did. I have a degree in mechanical engineering, which is a bit of a 360 from what I currently do now, which is business and mindset coaching. When I had kids, it was the light bulb moment of like, okay, I don't know what I'm passionate about, but I'm going to figure it out, because I didn't want to sit there and tell my kids, go follow your heart, do what you love, find what you're passionate about, and you can make a living from that, when I was not doing the same.
What is up, Impact Heroes? Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Rick Ornelas. Thank you for spending some time with us today, because we know time's a valuable resource and we're going to make it worth your while. I appreciate each and every one of you, not just for listening, but for who you are. I know you're sparking change to make the world a better place every day, and I am humbled and grateful for your efforts. It takes all of us doing our part to spread positive change, and that's what this show is all about. Motivating you with stories of struggle, courage, and hope to empower you to make a difference in your life and the lives of others.
In case you missed it,
my journey was 1000% around how to not be a doormat, how to not be a good girl, how to not decide to marry someone to look after me or live with someone to look after me. And I have to tell you that it was such an uphill battle, because when you as a woman decide not to conform, the abuse that you get is utterly horrendous. But that was the journey of giving up everything I was ever taught. And that shift from external to internal, it's never a masculine shift. Men are very hardwired to provide and understand themselves. Women are hard.
available everywhere you listen to your podcasts.
Welcome back, Impact Heroes. Today we have the pleasure of speaking to our latest iSpark Change social impact hero, and she is an interesting one indeed. Our guest today wants you to boost your sales, minimize stress, and have work-free vacations. Wouldn't that be nice? She knows what it's like to struggle and find success, as she went from $30,000 a year to $10,000 months, over $10,000 months. She's honest, driven, passionate, and helping her clients overcome the need to people please, enabling them to step into their power, grow their businesses, and create a lifestyle that balances success with family life. All super important. She knows it starts with your mindset and can help you shift yours to a one of abundance. And she has a gift for knowing exactly what her clients need to help them achieve sustainable, authentic success on her own terms. So please welcome the authentic, amazing mom boss extraordinaire, Carina Groombridge. Carina, welcome to the iSpark Change podcast. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you for that lovely introduction. I am good. And yourself?
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, I'm excited to dive into our chat and share all that you have to offer with our audience. So as we get started, we have to ask you the question that we ask all our guests here on the podcast, because we have you on the show because we consider you what we call a social impact hero, someone who is impacting the lives of others, making a positive difference and spreading positive change and making the world a better place, in essence. So we consider you a hero. But the question to you, Carina, is, do you consider yourself a hero?
Such a good question. I don't, in how I show up and how I support my clients, I don't see myself as the hero, because I see it as it's their story, it's their journey, and I'm there as their support along the way. So I see it as like, I'm going to be the hero of my own story, but for my clients, for my audience, for everyone I'm supporting, I'm just their support along their journey, because they get to be the heroes of their own journey.
Okay. So I'll ask you to clarify one thing, because I consider that we're all on the journey. Like you said, we're all on that, and if you go with Joseph Campbell's description of it, we're all on that hero's journey. Okay. So we're all going through that hero's journey. So I feel it's our duty as heroes to, as we go through our journey, to share what we've learned in the service of others, and he would say the same thing, if you've ever read his writing. So my question to you is, in in that sense of the word, in that you're supporting them in their journey, are you supporting them from a place of things that you've learned along your journey to help them? Or is it a place of just being there, kind of holding their hand through the process?
Yeah. So I feel like the coaching hat is really more of a, I don't need to have the experiences or have walked the same path as my clients. So I'm able to bring in tools, bring in processes and a different viewpoint to support them. But there is a part of what I do that's really more mentorship of the, okay, I've been there, I've done this, and I can share with you how I've processed through it. I can share with you, what that has looked like for me. And for me, it's just important in how I support my people is to help them figure out what is best for them. Because how I did it, how I processed through something is not necessarily going to be, the thing that lands for my clients. It can definitely support them, but as their coach, I love to just make it help them make it their own and figure out, okay, maybe my part of my journey is going to support you. And that's amazing. And maybe we just need to craft like what your journey is going to look like for you. So I kind of I feel like it's a little bit of both depending, and I kind of filter it through what my clients need in that moment.
Yeah, and I can totally respect that because obviously we're all going to have our own journeys, as you said and I said, and so it's not always going to be relatable. There are going to be plenty of times where it's something completely different, and I guess that's where they need the someone to support them, and then other times someone to kind of share that wisdom. So part of being being on that heroic journey is how you got there, right? Is how you got to where you are now. So share with our audience, because you've had your own journey, right? And you've gotten to where you are now that you're helping others. So how did you get to this point to where you knew that was something that you wanted to do, and how you were going to, spend your time and devote your efforts to?
Yeah. So for decades of my life, I had this story of, I don't know what I'm passionate about. And because I had that story, the guidance that my parents gave was, okay, just keep doing, like, getting educated, like keep going through school, through to keep the doors open, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I did. So I have a degree in mechanical engineering, which is a bit of a 360 from what I currently do now, which is business and mindset coaching.
Yeah.
And I held on to that story for nearly a decade after. Like, I worked in the field of engineering for nearly a decade. And when I had kids was like the turning point. It was the light bulb moment of like, okay, I don't know what I'm passionate about, but I'm going to figure it out, because I didn't want to sit there and tell my kids, okay, go follow your heart, do what you love, like find what you're passionate about and you can make a living from that, when I was not
Mm-hmm.
doing the same. It felt very
Yeah.
incongruent. So I was like, okay, I'm going to have to figure this out by myself if I'm going to want to teach them and show them and guide them in how to do this. And so that was my turning point. And I feel like it kind of really fed into what brought me to the mindset part of coaching,
Mm-hmm.
because that was the biggest shift that I needed to make. Like, it was literally one story. And it seems obvious now that I look back at it. In the moment, this was not obvious at all.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of like struggles and hurdles and wrong, I don't want to say wrong choices, because I don't think there were wrong choices, but just like, try this. Okay, that didn't work. Try this. Okay, that didn't work. And then I finally landed on coaching, and I was like, oh, like this I like this I could do for free every day. Like, I just love it so much. And I feel like that's what got me to where I am today. Of this, now it's just like this burning passion, desire, obsession to have my own personal growth, to support my clients, to support my family, and support like all of my audience, everyone around me.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I could do it every day for free. I love it. I think it's the best thing in the world. So that for me tells me, okay, I'm in the right place. and I could take it in like different directions, but I'm just thrilled that I had the courage to go for it because I had a stable job, that most people dream of. I had 3 kids under 3 when I started my business,
Oh, wow.
which that was a wild ride.
Yeah. How old are they now?
Now they are 9, 8, 8, and 2. I have
Okay.
yes. So
Wow. So a lot of pressure there with the little
yeah,
ones.
yeah. So it's a party in my house all the time.
I'm sure. So what was that? What was that? Obviously, that transition, there's the ups and downs of that transition, share a little bit more about that because that's where I feel there's so much of the learning and the growth. It's sure,
Mhm.
it's great that you found what you love, and that's fantastic. And a lot of people never get there. So the fact that you got there is phenomenal, and that you're enjoying it. And like the saying goes, you do what you love, and you never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
So share a little bit more about that trial and error, period of trying things, and how did you figure out what to try, and transition from the engineering to to what, and what that looked like, and how you eventually got to where you got to.
Yeah. So as I said in my story, I started with this idea of like, I don't know what I'm passionate about. And then the piece that I shifted it to was I'm going to figure it out. And in figuring it out, first I started with just something that I knew and was familiar with. Like I was in, like I said, I had 3 little people in diapers when I started. And I was like, well, I know how to put them to sleep. And I know that people pay a lot of money to like actually be able to figure out how to put their kids to sleep and do that whole like nighttime routine. I was like, well, I know how to do this. Like, okay, maybe I can make this a business. And this kind of started to get the wheels turning of like, oh, like this isn't just I could make a little money on the side, but people have businesses where they teach sleep consulting and this is what they do. And it just, it's like it opened my eyes to being able to create a business, create income, and support yourself on that income. And from there, it didn't take me very long to be like, okay, this is cool, but I don't want to stay here. Like, I don't want to live in this world forever. So that it was a very short lived stint in sleep coaching. And from there, I was like, okay, well, like I love connecting with people. I love to communicate. And then the next kind of iteration of that was life coaching. Like, cool. I love to talk to people, ask questions, get curious, and support others. So I was like, okay, life coaching. And then kind of tried that. And I was like, there's something that I just wasn't quite clicking. And when I landed on coaching around business and mindset, that was like that light bulb moment of, oh, like I can help people make money and create their own security. Because I don't know about you, I grew up with the mentality of like, get a secure job and that's
Hmm.
stable and like
Yeah.
that whole idea. So
Yeah.
I had to change that way of thinking because I literally did not know anyone that was a business owner. No one. Growing up in my life, like nobody was a business owner that I knew and really like got to hear the behind the scenes of that. And so I had to work to change my perspective on it. And then I just started seeing more and more people who made their own income, who, had a business that not just made money, but was able to support themselves and their families. And that was what allowed me to shift my thinking. And now the way that I see business and being able to grow your business is you're creating your own security. Like if
I like that.
you know how to give value to others and make money, if you have this skill, I can put you anywhere and you can make money. And
Yeah.
which is a total 180 from my original perspective and view on life of like the job is the security. But they can turn around and fire you tomorrow. Like it's not actually secure. It's kind of like this. It's like an illusion, right?
Hmm.
You feel
Hmm.
secure until, oh, there's layoffs and hey, I don't have a job anymore.
Yeah.
But yes.
So how did you bridge that gap? Because if you said you didn't know, business people, you didn't have necessarily the experience of, running multiple businesses or anything. How did you bridge that gap to helping others? And I guess what I mean by bridge the gap is, how did you gain trust from others to say, hey, Carina can help me with, my business, without having, because sometimes people,
Mhm.
they become an expert in certain area, they've done it forever, and then they're like, okay,
Yes.
now let me show others how to do it. But, and I'm not belittling your background, but I'm just saying with having, the a
Yes. Oh,
different type of
absolutely.
background.
Without having a
Yeah.
business experience, how can I
Yeah.
coach in business?
Yeah. How did you bridge that gap?
Right.
Yeah. And gain their trust.
Yeah. So I bridged the gap by putting my main focus on the mindset. So rather than being like, I have a successful business, I can teach you how to do it, I put my focus on, we need to shift your mindset, like your mindset to show up. And like, maybe that looks like going live. Maybe that looks like starting a conversation. Maybe that looks however that looks for you. And
Yeah.
so I put the focus on the things that I could help people with. And so obviously at the point of like just starting out, I wasn't going to be coaching the business owners making multiple six figures. I mean, I could have, but those weren't the people that I was talking to. The people that I was talking to are the people that where I was a few steps ahead of. So
Yeah.
maybe I had the courage, like in that moment, like, okay, well, I had the courage to show up and go live for my business and talk about it. And maybe some other people didn't. So they saw me and they're like, well, she can do it. Like
Yeah.
she's doing, what do I not know? Or what do I need to learn? So it was
Yeah.
just like kind of having that little one step ahead. And I could tell you the starting off was painstakingly hard because like I said, I had no examples. I had nobody else who'd done it before me that I personally knew. So it was a lot of research. It was a lot of like seeing other people and just looking to them as the example that helped me to kind of get started and get going. And then, I took trainings and learning all the things along the way.
Yeah. How did you find some of the initial clients? Were they friends? Were they people that you said, "Hey, I'm going to do it for free to get some experience," or how did you do that for people, that are starting out like that?
Yeah. So my first client was actually somebody that I knew from high school that we didn't really talk much, but I guess she had followed me online and she saw what I was doing and she was like, all right, I need your help. I was like,
Yeah.
amazing. Yes. And, she created some amazing success from that. And a lot of it was from word of mouth and just like, hey, this is what I'm doing. If you know anybody who needs help, like, here's what I'm up to. There's a lot of doing things for free. There's a lot of just getting my name out there. And like I said, all of the trial and error and the just, I don't know if this will work, but we're going to try and
Yeah.
see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That resilience component I think is so important, because a lot of people, they give up, right? They're like, oh, I don't know how to do this. I'm just gonna, forget it.
Mhm.
Or they try a couple things and it doesn't go well, and then they're like, they just give up. So
Yeah.
what do you think, what was the driving motivation to keep going for you? To not, if you're trying, two, three things, whatever, they're not working, or, you're
Mhm.
like, well, this didn't really go as planned. Like what was the motivation to keep going, and where did that come from?
Yeah, that is such a good question because I feel like I have so much motivation to keep going, and I know that's not necessarily shared by everyone, and I think part of it is the fact that I really truly love what I do and I could do it for free all day every day. If I mean I can't in the sense of like I need to make a living, I need to support my family, like
Mhm.
all of that, but I love it so much I would do it for free. So
Yeah.
I feel like that component is really helpful. And I find a lot of people sometimes when they get into business, it's like, oh, okay, well, is this going to make me money? Try a couple things. Oh no, it didn't work. On to the next thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not a problem, but that it doesn't allow them to figure out how to make money in that specific niche or industry because they don't truly love it. They're not in it to like, oh, I'm going to figure this out no matter what, which is the mentality that I held. So I'm like, well, I love this. I know I can like, I see examples out there that this can be a viable business option. This can, make me lots of money. And so in that moment, that was like what I looked to. that and having my 3 little people running around the
Yeah.
house, like, okay, like mama's gonna figure this out.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
I wanted to be home with them. I wanted to have the flexible schedule that actually allowed me to be the mom standing on the bus stop corner at like 3:30 in the afternoon and
Hmm.
not driving home in traffic at 7 p.m. going, okay, must pick up the kids, feed them, throw them in bed, and then do it all over again tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point, Karina, is because, not just for moms like yourself, but for anyone, because I've often talked on this program about the value of time, right? The value of our
Mm-hmm.
time and how that's the most precious resource we have. And so how has that, manifested itself now that you are coaching, that you have essentially gained back a bunch of time with your family or, for whatever it is. So how has that really manifested itself?
How has it manifested itself? Well, I mean, the schedule, the life that I have right now is literally what I was dreaming of when I started. So I'm not a big manifester, if you will. Like, it's not exactly what I practice, it's something along those lines, but I feel like that was the intention that I set out for. That was what I was like, okay, this is my goal. And there was the goal, like the financial goal, obviously, to be able to, support my family. But the bigger goal for me was I want the freedom and flexibility that comes with having my own business, that comes with setting
Hmm.
my own schedule. And I don't know, that was just what I had hoped and like dreamed for initially. And now, like, as I stand today, it's like, oh shit, like I did it. Like,
Yeah,
I've
yeah. Now you
created
have
that
that.
for myself. Yeah,
Now you can be at the
exactly.
bus stop or, the pickup for the kids, and I'm sure, tell me if these are all accurate. Like you can go watch their, sporting events or dance or, theater or whatever it is, things at school, you can participate in those
Yep.
types of things. Yeah. And that's what I mean about those are the ways that, what you wanted to create became reality, right? Is
Yes.
that those are the way, those are the, the evidence of what you created is, now the time that you have with your kids, the time that you essentially bought back through trial, error, effort, hard work, all of those types of things.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So what would you say is your current purpose right now? It sounds like you're intrinsically motivated to, help others and that you love what you do, so that's driving you. And then, the benefits of the time with your kids and, having the lifestyle, that allows that for that and everything. What would you say is really your purpose, if you could sum it up in a few words?
Yeah. So I would say my purpose, as I see it right now, is to support more women in doing the same. Because what I've been able to create for myself is what I support my clients to create, of this idea of like, you're not, because you have a business does not mean you have to work 24/7. You can create
Mhm.
success and have the flexible schedule to a degree. I work with many different industries, so it looks different in the different industries, but this is the idea that I want to promote. And this is what I want to help more and more people do. I mentioned it before to you, I'm starting a podcast in January. And that is the message. This is what I want to be sharing more and more of, because I think it's so important that we need to have this different view, this different perspective on like, oh, well, I can be an amazing business owner. I can like serve, I can give value to my clients, but I don't have to be at their beck and call 24 hours a day. And
Yeah.
I can, have dinner with the family. I can put the phone down. I can like have that flexibility, because so many of the business owners that I work with, they don't do that. And it's not because they can't. It's because they don't, like, they have the mindset blocks there to be like, well, like they're expecting me to show up and this is how I've always shown up for them, so I have to keep this up.
Hmm.
Or, they're calling me at 6 p.m. like I need to answer. And it's not actually true. And a lot of what I teach is on boundaries, on being able to figure out, okay, what is the life and business that you want? And now how are we going to get you there? Like what thoughts, what ideas need to change in order to
Mhm.
support that?
Yeah, super important to have that balance and those boundaries, especially as a business owner, an entrepreneur, where it's all self-driven because, going back to time, that's where time can really get away, where you're like, wow. One of the things I told my business partners in a brick and mortar business that I own is that they had never owned a business, and I had, been a part of many. And one thing I told them, I said, well, yeah, entrepreneurs trade in working 40 hours a week for someone else so you can work 80 hours a week for yourself.
For yourself. Yes.
Yeah. And they're like, yeah, I never really expected that, you work twice as hard, twice as much. And so that's kind of the trap, right? That's the trap that people can fall in is, oh, well, yeah, it's my baby, so I need to devote all my time and all my attention. And it sounds like you have a good balance of that and are sharing that with others.
Yeah, that's the goal. And not to say we don't work hard, because I work really hard, but I make sure that I am clear on my priorities to do that.
Yes. Yeah, which is super important.
Yeah.
So there's obviously you're impacting others, which is part of being a hero. And one of the things we always talk about on the show are spark moments. And these are moments in life where our actions, there's an initial spark, and then our actions or the actions of another have that ripple effect that continues far beyond that initial spark and has a much bigger effect. So share an example or share a story of a positive example where, maybe it's someone that you coached where you had, that small impact that it seemed small at the time, and then it's become a much bigger impact to them, or someone, in your journey when you were getting going, that they had an impact on you and that became a much bigger impact.
Yeah. So the story that comes to mind is about a client that I worked with who, she's a small business owner, and she had a small team that she was working with. And through the coaching that we did together, I taught her a lot of tools, a lot of different ways to show up and process through issues that arise and all of that. And another thing that we worked on was creating her team and building out a team that really supported her. And one of her struggles was she loved to help people, which is good. Like fundamentally, this is good, but she oftentimes took on people who weren't willing to help themselves. And so it was creating this environment that it wasn't very supportive for her business growth, because she's wanting to help these employees that she's hiring, but then they're not actually there to help anyone but themselves. And in a more selfish way. And so we worked on getting her to, build an amazing support team around her. We worked on getting her to be able to let go and create processes and systems in place to have her business be able to run more independently, because she found herself as the boss going and like getting into all of the nitty-gritty details, where those were things that oftentimes could have been delegated. And so all of this to say, we had worked together maybe over a year ago, I want to say. And today she is expecting a baby and being able to, she has a team in place that is absolutely amazing, that is able to run the business while she gets to sit and, cuddle a baby. And I'm sure, I know her, I'm sure she's still going to be checking in and doing little bits here and there. But for me, that like spark that changed things was she learned how to let go. She learned how to delegate. She learned how to build this solid team. And I know because some of her colleagues have mentioned it, of like, oh, like Carina said that, didn't she? And
funny.
it's things that we talked about in our coaching, and then she was able to convey and use it to support her team and her team's growth. So just seeing that kind of impact over the years for me is like, it gives me goosebumps. It makes me so happy to not just support my clients in that moment, but it's really like more of a longer term support that you're giving yourself. Like you're able, through the work that I do, my clients are able to literally shift the way that they're thinking and showing up. And it's not just in the 6 months or a year that we work together, it's for life. Like, you get to hold this perspective, hold this shift for the rest of your life, and it gets to continue to go and support you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. That's a fantastic example of, that ripple effect that just continues on and on and on and on, and will continue for, like you said, the rest of your life, the rest of your life, her lives, and impact many others. So, great example of a spark moment. Well, Carina, as we come to the end here, how can people connect with you and learn more about your work and what you're doing?
Yes. So as I mentioned, I have a podcast coming out in January, which I'm super pumped about. It is called You Are Your Biggest Asset. And I would love for everyone listening, come follow me, check it out. It will be fantastic. And aside from that, I also love to hang out on Instagram, and you can find me there at Carina Groombridge Coaching.
Okay, well, we will make sure we share all that in the show notes and make sure we have the links to the podcast and everything, and look forward to checking that out. So final question here before we let you go. And that is our big goal here at iSpark Change is to positively impact 1 billion people within 5 years of launching our upcoming social impact social media platform and through our community. And we know we can't do this alone. We know we need the help of impactful leaders like yourself to show others the way, because a lot of people feel, as I once did, and maybe you too, that they're too small to make a difference, or they're not going to be impacting the lives of others. So we value your thoughts and opinions as a social impact hero. So I want you to peer into the future, Carina, peer into our crystal ball here, and tell us, what can the world become if everyone starts believing that they can impact others in a positive way for our future?
Ooh. The first thought that comes to my mind is kind and peace. Those are the two things that come to mind. And I feel like the work that you're doing and how it's going to positively impact others, it leads to, I feel like, more self-reflection, more internal growth for people, which I feel like that drives changes and shifts people's actions, and kind of leads to more kindness in the world, more peace, more just kind of like the expression that I'm thinking of is a rising tide raises all boats.
Mm-hmm.
And like we all get to rise together. So I love that's what comes to mind for me.
Yeah, well, a beautiful visual. So thank you very much for sharing that, Carina. And thank you for taking time to share your heart and wisdom with our audience today. You came in and you over-delivered as I expected, and your desire to impact others is evident, and you're filled with a passion, humility, and you lead with a heart of service and gratitude, which tells me you're going to continue to have success in all facets of life, and this is only the beginning of your time as a social impact hero. All right, Impact Heroes, it's our stories that connect us all, and we loved hearing Carina's today. Carina Groombridge, you're not only an inspiring and amazing human being, you truly are an iSpark Change social impact hero. We'll see you all next time.
Do you want Rick to speak at your event? Here's what others have to say.
Did not know his story, and it was so inspirational, and his presence on stage, his authenticity was just incredible.
Performance made me feel some type of way. My name is Craig Siegel.
If you're looking for a speaker for your next event, hire Rick. I promise you this, you will not be disappointed.
Visit rickcornelis.com to book him today.
Remember, Impact Heroes, every positive action can be a spark moment that has a ripple effect that spreads far beyond the initial act. So go out there and spark change. Don't forget, if you enjoyed this episode, then please smash that 5-star rating on iTunes or Spotify and leave a review. We value your comments, and we want to hear from you in the community. Thank you for listening. God bless you, and we'll see you next week on the iSpark Change podcast.